I record it?
Yeah, I was in a different screen. So, Zoom is just 14 different ways of getting in there. So welcome everybody. The penultimate call like this, we might do one next week. We might cancel it. We'll see. I'll let everybody know. I think we'll probably, unless something shakes up, we really need to let everybody know different. It's coming together pretty well. Um, those of you that have been invited to Sunday night should have received the invitation. Respond to Dan for that. And for the Monday night excursion. Um, the I talked to the PMG Monday. He's looking forward to coming. He's got an interesting message. For those of you that pay attention to his relationship um, with Congress, with the PRC, with the OIG, he's pretty much. I'm here trying to fix things. You guys have been here all along, so quit telling me what to do. I don't know if it's a good message, but it's a message, and he's pretty consistent with it. But he brought up some good points. So I've talked over our legislative slate with Doug Tolino, Deputy Postmaster General. They're neutral on all the things we want them to be neutral on, and actually, in favor of the web GPO stuff is going to be fine. We did have a little bit of news on the room configuration. We still have the overflow room. We can sit everybody in the room theater style, which is on the screen now. Which is my preference is to get everybody in the same room. We can actually do it almost in rounds, but it's super, super, super tight. So on the day, I think the rooms will be one of these two configurations, and we'll still have the overflow room set up because it can be a long day crammed together in there. So it gives people the option if they want to go into the overflow room, they can. People are still registering. We're over 350 now, so which is great. But usually there's some no shows. Very rarely do people walk up, but sometimes they do. So we'll make that decision on which one of these configurations we have. And it'd be nice to have everybody in the same room, maybe for the morning session, and then once we eat lunch, there will be a video feed in the other room, and we'll just play that by ear, which will drive the new event planners nuts because they want to know, well, which one are we doing? I said, well, I really want to see the space before I make a final decision. So it'll be one of these two configurations, and we'll make the best of it. I like the idea of everybody been having a table. Patrick and John are going to be in this weekend. They're going to be in the office all next week, putting the packets together. The packets are going to be much more tailored specifically to the members of Congress that we're going to go see. So you'll have the general questions we always do, but usually we have the generic lobbying report, and we're actually going to make these packets a little more specific so that whoever's in charge in each chapter, and those chapters that have volunteered to help me with other chapters that aren't going to be there, if we can drop a packet off everywhere, even if we don't have a meeting, that's great. Otherwise, bring them back and we'll collect them all back up and we'll mail them in. We're going to try and cross-pollinate the web GPO bills. With so many people on 82, we're going to ask everybody on 82 who's a Republican to get on the Arrington bill, and everybody who's on 82 who's a Democrat to get on the Neal bill as well. Just as much as we can to get, the more noise, the better. That's going to be our major thrust. Obviously, that's going to be our big sell. We're going to talk about a few other things too, and we're going to have to arm you with some information on the questions that you're going to get because you're there. NAPS was there Monday, Tuesday. They were Tuesday, Wednesday. They had their meetings up on the Hill, and they're pushing a couple of bills that I haven't been asked to proffer an opinion on. We haven't taken a position on. Doesn't mean we don't have a position on it. We just haven't really, it's not the top of our legislative wants or needs. But I'm happy to discuss it with anybody, and you just need to be ready if the questions come. And sometimes that's a better way of approaching it anyway, right? So you have a staffer that's in tune with what they ask for, starts a conversation, and then we come to a more informed decision. Brian, Chris, you're on. I don't know if Joel's on or not, if he's playing dead. Do you want to cover any of the politics this week? And I know it's the big State of the Union. I'm going to be stuck at DCA waiting for a late flight out of St. Louis until about 10:30. So I guess I'll get to watch I'm in the office, so I'll get to watch the State of the Union on TV. You want to cover any of the politics from this week?
Sure. I guess a couple of things. Number one is the House passed the 6 appropriations bills that were the deadline was this week. We're waiting for the Senate to bring those up as well. They're bipartisan, so avoided a government shutdown. And then number two is current Senator Kirsten Sinema from Arizona, who's a member of the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, announced her retirement. So that she switched from Democrat to independent, and she was facing a Republican and a Democrat in the general election. So this now just creates a Democrat-Republican open seat, which is going to be really critical for Democrats to keep the Senate. They're going to have to win Arizona. Like I said, we're losing a friend on the Oversight Committee in the Senate. And of note, Senator Sinema's chief of staff's wife is a counsel at the Postal Service too. So they had like a very strong affinity to our issues in that office.
Yeah, that'll be.
I know Jimmy was in town this week with Naps.
Yeah, he came over to say hi.
Yep. So we've had some of our members around too, so from Arizona. So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yep.
In Arizona and what that does to the balance in the Senate too.
Exactly.
Hey guys, some news in New Jersey as well. Senator Bob Menendez, who's facing almost as many indictments as President Trump, is not running for re-election. So that'll be a very competitive Senate race in New Jersey now, both in the primaries for the Republicans and Democrats, and in the general election, most likely.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a hard one for us to stay out of with Andy Kim.
Yeah. Andy's been good to us.
He has.
So he is a real friend. So it is hard, but
it didn't sound good last night with Pallone, though. I mean, that didn't.
He's facing some political challenges there for sure.
Yeah,
the structure of the way they run their races, is different. And going from running in a small congressional district to running statewide and getting your name ID out there when you're running against somebody who has a very well-known name throughout the state, it's not an easy proposition. So also number of Senate races primaried on Tuesday this week. So California, Texas, we have some candidates in those open seat races as well. Probably the most likely outcome in those states is going to be the result. Adam Schiff won the top seat in the California primary. Steve Garvey, former major league pitcher, took the second seat in that race. And then in Texas, Ted Cruz won renomination for the Senate. Colin Allred is the Democrat that's going to face him. But I mean, I think really surprising at this point in the primary season, nobody has been upset that's an incumbent. There were a few people that were being watched for potential upsets, but none of that has turned out so far. A few races down later in the year, could see some more roiling of the ranks. People like Mike Bost, who's probably okay now, in Illinois. States that are later in the cycle, some of the Virginia races because of the way they run their elections. Virginia voted for president on Super Tuesday, but they'll do their congressional elections in August. So, not a great time of year to do elections, and then a very short time from the end of the primary into the general election. So a few states like that where there's some abnormalities in their processes.
And it's something we'll watch for these calls when they go back to monthly calls the rest of the year, is where our friends are.
Yeah.
Like especially friends like Mike Boss, that on the surface you wouldn't think would be as good a friend as he is, and we need to keep it. We lost Rodney last year, and Mary Miller really hasn't, although she called me today, that her and Budzinski,
Budzinski.
thank you. I guess they wrote the PMG about his plans for moving mail around Illinois. So finally getting, it's been 2 years trying to get a hold of her. So, that's something we really need to, to keep an eye on, is where our friends are. We don't generally get, I mean, like I say, in New Jersey, Andy Kim, we supported him in the House. He's been good to us, but we don't get involved, unless they're an incumbent and they have a track record. So we certainly, hope Mike stays around. He's a good guy, and we need to keep people like him in there. And I know there's a few of them right around the country that are potentially, I don't know that it's going to be a huge class again, but it's probably going to be 50, 60 freshmen again, right? Same as it's been.
There are still a lot of members retiring. I mean, certainly just the news this week with Senator Sinema and Senator Menendez. But I mean, in the Texas delegation, a lot of turnover there of some, long tenured members retiring. Dr. Burgess, Chairwoman Granger, folks like that. California, also a state that's seen some long tenured members retiring. Even closer to DC and Maryland, Senator Cardin retiring, and a couple of members of Congress, looking to also retire or run for the Senate. So there is a lot of new people that will be coming in the new Congress just because of the high volume of retirements this cycle. Even in states like Wisconsin, a guy like Mike Gallagher deciding not to run for re-election, right. Very surprising.
Yep.
A popular congressman. I think somebody who's in his early 40s. Certainly well below retirement age. Deciding not to run for re-election. So there still will be a number of new people throughout the country in the new Congress, but they're still here until the end of the year.
Right. Yeah. And so we work on them. Obviously in a couple of weeks. The web GPO is the main thrust, but we're going to have to get into that mode this time next year for re-educating a bunch of new people on how the Postal Service works, and it just becomes a continuum. We build and build. So the more of us on these calls, and the more of us spreading that message out into the chapters and developing people to come behind us and get people excited about the process is good. And give a plug for PAC. I'm gonna go. It's probably gonna be after midnight before I get home tonight, and then I got an 8:30 with Hakeem Jeffries tomorrow morning. It's building those relationships. It's been a while since I've been in the room with him, and generally he's with us and everything. But he's one of those influencers, especially if the house flips, he'll be speaker most likely, right?
Yes.
And so those PAC events and those PAC dollars on both sides to get us in those rooms is equally important. Speaking of which, on PAC, I don't know if John, are you on here? I haven't seen him. I didn't talk to him today. I know he was traveling. my new executive assistant, Terry, he's gone through all the PAC supply lists from the last couple of years. We've got about 3 forms for this year that have been mailed in. Everybody that's got an April convention, we're going to try and have PAC supplies available for you. If you've sent in a list or based on last year's list. So if we don't have any information for you, if you're in April, or if you want, you got more people coming to convention and you want it'd be good to get your, to mail your PAC supply request in so we can just hand it to you at Summit. The new PAC pins are awesome. We've got the table drops. We really need to hit the ground running. With any of those events, that's our biggest hitter is national convention and chapter conventions is where we raise the most money. The important thing to concentrate on this year is now going to be, as we're growing the organization, we've got about 8,000 people that we've signed up, give or take, that are brand new. We're not going to see them all in person, but those that we see in person, it's one of the first things we've got to introduce them to. This is our process. This is our political action. This is how we get, we've had a few setbacks on the Title 39 road, but I've also had conversations with the service, and they seem to go hand in hand. We knew we probably weren't going to get what we wanted first crack of the bat with Title 39 reform, but it starts the conversation. And so it's important to, people throw their hands up and say, oh, Congress, or oh, the political process. But it's amazing how we start that conversation and then we come back around and have a consistent message, and we help people on other issues, and we come back around where being in the room and having those conversations, Brian, I mentioned it earlier, Brian and I were at a loan event last night, and it was all medical. Everybody was medical pretty much in the room. So really I touched on a few things, Web GPO, he's with us all the way on that. But
there's Dr. Jill
to help to actually with other issues in the room we built this sort of coalition of other clients of Brian Chris's and that we go a lot of places together, and the cross-pollination of issues we've sort of built, when you call, they remember, and it's getting in that room, and it's vitally important that we raise those PAC dollars. So another interesting thing that happened to me this week, Morty Bennett from Virginia sort of called in a panic, worried about setting up meetings for Virginia. So I sent out emails on the new Levitate program to all the schedulers in Virginia, and I set up about 8 or 9 meetings for Tuesday. It's a lot easier than I remember doing it 10 years ago when I was in Illinois, when I used to have to fax things to people. And some people wanted it online and some people by email. They responded to the email, and then they asked me to send them an Outlook meeting. And now my Tuesday is full of meetings in Virginia. So I'm hoping everybody else has had a similar experience with meetings. No, Brian, Chris, Joel, myself will be around. Yeah, no problem, Morty. That was, that's what we're here for. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I tell you what I'm not going to enjoy is running around that building for 8 hours because the meetings are all over the place because I couldn't coordinate the buildings, but that's going to be fun too. And by the end of it, we'll know how to give the message. There are some tough gets. The other piece of advice I would give you is anywhere that you don't have if you haven't been able to get a meeting, if you haven't been able to get a hold of somebody, you got 4 or 5 meetings, write the number of the office building, where it's 512 Cannon or whatever it is. And as you're going by between meetings, just pop in there, take the packet in there, pop in there, say, hey, we couldn't set up a meeting, but we, from UPMA, a couple minutes, I'd like to leave this for your postal person, for your tax persons about Web GPO, and keep on going. the more of those packets we can get out, if we can get all 535 of them, that'd be awesome. Having said that, it's a fairly quick one tonight. I think more than likely, we won't need one next week, unless there's, you know, some pressing news and we have to change anything. So I will open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions for myself or Patrick or John or Chris, Brian, I think Joel's on. Joel, your dad, you on here?
Just to let you know, Edmund, you're freezing up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, my computer is.
Edmund, just to let you know, you're just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm on listening to
Right.
the helicopters fly over my house and wake up the baby.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about I'm going to DCA here in a little bit. I'm a little worried about the security.
Yeah, you should be fine.
Yeah, they only do stops when the president's moving.
Okay. All right. So he'll be in one spot, so we should be okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Any concerns coming in?
I will just reiterate, for being on the Hill a number of days this week and last week, the crowds are significant. It's very crowded up on the Hill right now. Space is at a premium. There's people all over the hallways. So make sure to remind your folks to have and wear comfortable shoes. Sneakers are really not frowned upon anymore. So people do wear them with their business attire for walking around. But it is very crowded these days. There's a lot going on. So it's going to be a good time. Cherry trees are just starting to have their first buds the last couple of days here as well. So should be pretty nice.
Yeah, you're going to be 2 or 3 days right before the peak when you guys are here, which is my favorite time. So, does anybody else have any other questions?
This is Sharon.
Hey, Sharon.
Are there any, how are y'all? Are there any bag restrictions as far as getting in the buildings? I guess bringing the less amount of stuff is the best.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think it's as bad as
If
getting
you could take it through an airport, you could take it through
it's
Capitol
airport
security.
rules rather than stadium rules, if you know what I mean.
Okay, thank you.
Good
I
question.
was just going to mention on there, looks like Melissa Tarleton has a bed in a double room available. Anybody see that in the chat?
Right.
We're still looking for rooms.
That's good. Yeah, if there's a guy out there who doesn't mind sharing, I guess one of the Wisconsin guys must not have a room, right? And Jimmy said there's really long lines at the Senate, and that's the hardest one, to be honest with you, because generally you're leaving the House side running over to the Senate anyway, and then the lines are long. So, are all the entrances open now, Brian? Or are they still are they limited?
No,
Most of the entrances are open. On the
most of them. There's a few that are closed because of construction or
Okay.
other issues. So, like for example, the door nearest to like the Capitol Hill Club and the Metro entrance on the House side, that door is not open right now
Right.
because of construction that's happening
Around
on the
front of
building
Canada.
there. Yeah. But for the most part, no other issues. It's only construction or should there be a terribly unfortunate incident of some kind with
Right.
protesters
Yeah.
occupying space or things like that.
I'm guaranteed that's not going to
occasionally
happen
are,
on the 19th.
yeah.
All right. All right, guys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much. If there's nothing else, I'll let you guys go. And I'll see everybody. Like I say, I think next week we'll cancel. Just if I need somebody, if I need to talk to you guys, I'll send it out and say, hey, something's changed and we need to get together. Okay?
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Sounds
Good
good.
night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right.
Good
Thank you
night.
all.
Thank you all.